I didn't see family estrangement coming. I didn't plan it. I didn't want it. I didn't seek it, but it still happened. And what surprised me most wasn't losing contact. I'm going to be sharing today 5 things that hit the hardest and surprised me the most as everything unfolded. When everything fell apart, I was just trying to survive. My house was in chaos. My kids were in more trouble than I ever knew existed. They were in a chronic state of crisis, and I was being targeted from all sides. And crazy stuff, I mean, off the wall stuff, was happening all throughout my extended family, and none of it made any sense. I wasn't thinking about what came next. I didn't even know what would come next. I just knew that what was going on was killing me and it had to stop. And then one day the blinders came off. I could never unsee what I saw, and there was no turning back. I knew from that point forward nothing would ever be the same again, and it hasn't been. So let's talk about those things that surprised me the most about how things unfolded and how I ended up being part of the estrangement epidemic that I never planned to join. The first big surprise I had about family estrangement is that it happened. It didn't fit any narratives or the fantasy ideas that I had been taught or I held about family all of my life. And honestly, it still doesn't. We were supposed to last forever. We were supposed to take care of each other, support each other, stick together, love each other, laugh together, and have each other's back no matter what. That's what I'd been taught. That's what I'd been told. That's who they said we were. But apparently that is only true if there are no issues, if the boat never gets rocked, or if everyone is happy, successful, and compliant. The estrangement situations that happened didn't happen fast in any of our situations. There wasn't any one big blow up or one big moment where everything fell apart. We became estranged parents, and the parental alienation happened one little crumble at a time. On all 3 sides, with my in laws, with my own family, and with our son, the relationships all died a slow and painful death. Sometimes we didn't even know the cracks were there. And we tried everything we could and we knew how to do to turn things around and make it work, but it wasn't enough. And in fact, in many cases, those things we thought were good actually made things worse. And that ship we were trying to save was already sinking. Big surprise number 2 is how committed they would all be to being right, pointing fingers, and playing the victim. Honestly, this blew my mind. The more that things unfolded and the more that I tried to address the issues, the harder they dug in their heels, flipped the script, and altered reality so that they could stay the wounded ones and I could be the bad guy. I know now what was going on and why that was happening, but I didn't at the time, and so it was very confusing. And honestly, even though I very clearly understand it now, their level of commitment to that stuff still boggles my mind. I am a strong, stubborn, independent woman myself, and I come from a long line of them, but this is next level, not even on the same planet, not even in the same universe. I remember the first time I told somebody that was outside of my close friends or family circle about what was going on, and I shocked myself at what I heard when I told the story. It was the first time I could step back far enough to see these people were nuts. There was nothing sane about it, nothing normal about it, or nothing okay about any of it. And I left that conversation with one big question ringing in my ears. Who does this? What kind of a person does this? And then I found the answer. And that answer was both heartbreaking and liberating at the same time. And it forever changed everything about me and my life, past, present, and future. Surprise number 3 is that it took so long to see the dysfunctional family dynamics. I married into them from day one with my husband's family. Those issues were obvious from day one, and they've never changed. They decided who I was and what I was before they even met me. And 32 years later, they're still holding on to those things, even though I'm nowhere near that girl that they met. And I never even was that person they made me out to be. But seeing that level of stuff from day one was actually a surprise. It was so different from anything I'd ever experienced, or so I thought anyway. The bigger surprise, though, is that it took me 27 more years to see the same thing and the same dynamics happening across the board in many other relationships. You see, family issues are kind of like ice cream. They come in all different flavors and colors and packages, but the basic ingredients are all still the same. Every package of ice cream starts with milk, cream, sugar, and salt. And when you strip back all the layers and the fluff and the disguises of family dynamic, the basic elements of dysfunctional family relationships also are right there at the roots. I just didn't know what they were, and I didn't know how to recognize them for a very long time. Surprise number 4, however, is that the warning signs had been there all along. Once I finally understood the dynamics and what was driving them, I could see the warning signs had been there all along. They didn't start when I was an adult. They didn't start with just one thing. In fact, some of them are etched into my very earliest memories, and they most likely started before I ever even existed. I didn't have a bad childhood. I didn't come from obvious dysfunction and trauma like some of my kids did. I had a great home. Or my parents have been married for going on 60 years, and there was never any big bad boogeyman that came lurking in the night. Yet there was always an undercurrent that just never felt quite right. I couldn't name it. I couldn't put a finger on it. It was just something that was off. I just didn't know what it was. I didn't know what those things were, and I certainly didn't recognize them as cracks in the system. In fact, they happened so frequently that I pretty much thought they were normal and that everybody lived like this. Except they don't. Perhaps the biggest surprise of all is number 5, and that is that I would spend the rest of my life talking about estrangement, teaching others about it, and helping them navigate through it. I guess you could say that surprise started when I adopted my kids. I had to learn way more about early childhood trauma and attachment and mental health and drug and alcohol exposure than I ever wanted to know. And that was just to survive. But along the way, I realized I had a passion and a gift for helping other women who were living this same nightmare to figure it out and to navigate through it. My kids are all grown up and all on their own now. I did survive that experience. And I admit I have pretty much zero desire to ever go back and do kid stuff again. And I would have loved to have gotten away from trauma altogether. In fact, I tried to several times. But God had a different plan. And so here I am with the same passion about the same stuff, just with a different spin. If you want to know more about how I can help you and what I can do to help you figure this stuff out, let's talk. There's some contact links down in the description where you can get a hold of me. And while you're at it, check out that video right over there where I'll share even more lessons that I've learned along the way about estranged parents and families and what it really takes to heal from all of this. Give it a click and I'll see you over there.